Hound of the Baskervilles, Chapter 2. "I have an old manuscript with me," said Dr. Mortimer. "Yes, I can see it in your pockets," replied Holmes. "Early 18th century, I would say. The exact date is 1742. Dr. Mortimer took the manuscript out from his pocket. I was given it by Sir Charles Baskerville, who died suddenly 3 months ago. I was his friend as well as his doctor. He was a very sensible and practical man, and he treated this document very seriously. It tells the story of a Baskerville family legend." Holmes nodded. "No doubt it is very interesting, but your problem is surely something rather less odd." "Absolutely," said Mortimer. "I want to talk to you about something I must decide in the next 24 hours. But this document is important. Please let me read it to you. It is quite short." Holmes leaned back and closed his eyes as Dr. Mortimer began to read. "Hugo Baskerville II, Baskerville Hall, 1742. This is the story of the Hound of the Baskervilles. I heard it from my father, and he heard it from his father. Our ancestor, Sir Hugo Baskerville, was a wild man with a bad reputation. He fell in love with a young woman who lived near the Baskerville home. The girl knew Hugo's reputation, and she would not speak to him. So, one evening, Hugo and some of his men took the girl from her home to Baskerville Hall and locked her in a room. The girl was brave and clever, however, and she climbed down the wall and escaped, running across the empty moor to get home. When Hugo realized that the girl had escaped, he was furious. He said he would give himself to the devil if he could catch the girl. Then, with his hounds and his horse, he set off to hunt the girl like an animal. Hugo's guests got their horses and followed to try to stop him. Soon they found Hugo's black horse riding alone without its rider. Next they found the hounds standing still, terrified. And then they found the body of the girl, dead from exhaustion. Next to her was Hugo, and over him stood a black hound, huge and evil-looking, and it killed Hugo as they watched. The guests ran away terrified. I write a story to you so our family will not forget its history, and also so that you remember this. Never cross the moor when it is dark, because the evil is at its strongest." When Dr. Mortimer finished reading, he looked at Holmes to see his reaction. "Well," he said, "is that not interesting?" Holmes yawned. "To someone who collects fairy tales, perhaps." Dr. Mortimer took a piece of newspaper from his pocket. "Here is something more recent, Mr. Holmes. It is from May of this year. It gives some information about Sir Charles Baskerville's death." Holmes opened his eyes and leaned forward as Mortimer read the article. "The recent death of Sir Charles Baskerville has saddened the whole of Devon. Sir Charles came to Baskerville Hall just 2 years ago, but his friendliness and generosity had made him very popular. The Baskerville family had lost its fortune many years ago, but Sir Charles was a successful man and was very wealthy when he came back to England from South Africa. Sir Charles had no children and was a widower. He lived simply with only a married couple at the Hall, Mr. Barrymore, the butler, and Mrs. Barrymore, the housekeeper. Sadly, Sir Charles was not a healthy man. He had problems with his heart, with his breathing, according to the Barrymores and to Dr. James Mortimer, Sir Charles's friend and doctor. Sir Charles enjoyed walking before he went to bed. One night he went for his usual walk, but did not come back. Mr. Barrymore went to look for Sir Charles and found his body. There were footprints in the grass which told a strange story. Sir Charles walked down to the gate which led on to the moors, and stood there for some time. Then he walked farther, standing on his toes for some reason. A horse dealer called Murphy said that he heard shouts that evening, but he had been drinking and did not see anything. There were no signs of violence on Sir Charles's body, but his face was very strange and almost unrecognizable. This may be the result of his heart problems, however. Sir Charles's heir is Mr. Henry Baskerville, who is the son of Sir Charles's younger brother, and who was last known to be in America. Dr. Mortimer folded the newspaper and put it back in his pocket. These are the public facts about the death of Sir Charles Baskerville, Mr. Holmes. Thank you, said Holmes. Now please tell me the private facts which are not in this report. Certainly. Mortimer looked sternly at Holmes and myself. But please understand that I am telling you information which I have told no one else. I did not want to spread rumours or to frighten the next person who comes to live in Baskerville Hall, but I will tell you everything. Not many people live on the moor, and very few educated people. Apart from Sir Charles, there was Mr. Frankland of Lafter Hall, and Mr. Stapleton, who is a naturalist. Naturally, we spent a lot of time together. After some time, I noticed that Sir Charles's health was getting worse. He believed the legend about the Hound of the Baskervilles and was terrified by it. In fact, he would never go out onto the moors at night. More than once he asked me if I had ever seen any strange creatures there, or heard the baying of a hound. I advised Sir Charles to leave Baskerville Hall and move to London for a few months. Our friend, Mr. Stapleton, agreed with me, and Sir Charles decided to do as I suggested. But the terrible catastrophe happened before he could leave. Barrymore, the butler, sent for me after he found Sir Charles's body, and everything was as the newspaper article said. But there was no other fact which I have not told anyone. There were no other footprints near Sir Charles's body, but I noticed some marks a little further off. They were very fresh and clear. A man or a woman's footprints? Asked Holmes. Neither, Mr. Holmes, said Dr. Mortimer in a whisper. They were the footprints of a gigantic hound. Holmes's eyes were bright. He was wide awake now. You saw this? He asked. As clearly as I see you. No one else saw these footprints? The marks were 20 yards from the body. No one thought to look. Holmes nodded. There are many sheepdogs on the moor? Many, but this was too big to be a sheepdog. What was the weather like? It was damp and quite cold, but not raining. I see. Tell me about the path where Sir Charles liked to walk. Mortimer thought for a moment. There are 2 lines of hedges on either side. These are very high, twice as high as a tall man. The only way through the hedge is a gate which leads onto the moor. The path is about 8 feet wide, and there is some grass on each side. So, to reach the path, you must either enter it from the house or through the gate. There is a summer house at the end of the path. You could go that way. Had Sir Charles reached the summer house? No. Holmes leaned forward. Now, tell me, Dr. Mortimer, and this is important, the marks you saw were on the path and not the grass? Yes, the grass would not show any marks. And were the marks on the side of the path close to the gate or on the other side? Mortimer frowned. They were on the same side as the moor gate. Fascinating. And was the gate locked? Yes, it was closed and locked. How high is the gate? Oh, not very high. 4 feet, perhaps. Then anyone could have climbed over it. What marks did you see by the gate? Nothing particular. Good heavens! Did no one examine the place? I did, said Mortimer, but it was quite dark. I could see that Sir Charles had stood there for 5 or 10 minutes. And how did you know this? The ash from his cigar had fallen twice to the ground. Excellent! Holmes glanced at me with a smile. You see, Watson, here is an observant man. But what about the marks there? As I said, it was dark. I could see only the marks Sir Charles made. Holmes slapped his knee with his hand in frustration. If only I had been there, he said. Dr. Mortimer, this is an extremely interesting case. What a pity you did not call on me immediately. I could not ask for your help, Mr. Holmes, without telling you and others about these facts. And also, Mortimer's voice dropped. Also what? There are things which even the greatest detective cannot explain. You think this is a supernatural matter? Mortimer hesitated. Mr. Holmes, since this terrible thing happened, I have heard other things which do not seem to be natural. Several people report that before Sir Charles's death they had seen a creature on the moor which looked like this Baskerville demon. All of them say it was huge, horrifying, and ghostly looking. Not many people will cross the moor at night now. Holmes smiled. If you believe that the matter is supernatural, Dr. Mortimer, then why did you come here for help? This is not why I came. I want you to give me some advice as to what I should do with Sir Henry Baskerville, who is arriving at Waterloo Station in just over 1 hour. He is the heir. There are no other Baskervilles? Yes, he is the heir. There were 3 brothers. Sir Charles was the eldest. The second brother died quite young, and Sir Henry is his son. Until now he has been a farmer in Canada, and he is by all accounts an excellent young man in every way. The third brother, Roger, was not a good person. He was quite like the old Hugo Baskerville of all legend. He even looked like Hugo. He had some troubles with the police in England and went to South America, where he died of a fever in 1876. Sir Henry is the last of the Baskervilles. Now, Mr. Holmes, please advise me. What should I do with young Sir Henry? Holmes shrugged. Why should he not go to his family home? It would be natural, but every Baskerville who goes to Baskerville Halls dies in some tragic way. Holmes thought for a little while. Dr. Mortimer, a devil could hurt Sir Henry as easily in London as in Devon. Say nothing to him yet. Come back here with Sir Henry at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I will give you my advice. As Dr. Mortimer left, Holmes called to him. One more question before you go, Dr. Mortimer. You say that several people saw the beast on the moor before Sir Charles's death? Yes, 3 people. And did any see it after his death? Not as far as I know. Thank you. Dr. Mortimer. Goodbye. The end of Chapter 3.